Welcome back to the Dispatch. Super excited to be hosting our Regional Vice President of the West, none other than Marc Faluotico. Welcome to the Dispatch, Mark.
Thanks, Dan. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, can you tell me a little bit about your role at Pierce, a little bit about being an RVP, what that means, and a little bit about your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, I'm the Western Regional Vice President for Pierce. I manage all of our dealers in the Western U.S. I was very fortunate. I started as a firefighter, was a firefighter for 25 years in Colorado, and then had the opportunity to come over and work for Pierce. And wasn't we ran Pierce apparatus in my department, and I was able to work for our local Pierce dealer. So it's been about roughly 30 some odd years of close to 30 years of being with affiliate with Pierce.
So it was 30 of, does that include your time as a fire? Like when did you start selling fire
Actually,
trucks for the dealer?
yeah, started selling fire trucks before I got on the with in between fire department jobs.
So you've had like two careers stacked on each other.
Isn't it amazing?
That's
I
wild.
know it's crazy, but
Good
it's
for
been
you.
fun. It's been fun. We have a great job, and it's just a great company to work with.
Yeah, it's a blast. Well, what I really wanted to grill you on, obviously, you're out of the West. And I know when this project started, big target region for this product specifically is the Pierce Volterra. So I was going to grill you a little bit about that, if you don't mind today. I want to hear a little bit about your experiences, a little bit about the product, if that suits you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Yeah. Now that I'm sure you've never talked about the Volterra.
It's first time. So
First
first
time.
time. Yep, absolutely.
All right, perfect. So let's start from the beginning. What is the Pierce Volterra EV pumper?
Yeah, so the Volterra is a great new product that we rolled out in response to our customers asking us for a environmentally conscious ability to meet their sustainability goals. So we had customers reach out. They wanted to talk about what we could do, and we really we designed this to meet their needs. It's North America's first North American style electric fire truck designed to meet our customers' needs and operations.
So why did Pierce decide we're gonna do this? Why are we gonna get into this EV space after decades and decades of being in combustion engines? Well, century plus of being in combustion engines, really.
It comes back from just our customers. They wanted a way to reduce emissions and still get the job done, right? Customers were looking for that environmentally responsible options, and we literally wanted to lead the charge, literally. Through some close collaborations with some key firefighters and customers and engineers, we were able to really design the Volterra that met the real world demands our customers were looking for.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the technology and the different modes? Because it does have a combustion engine as well in the solution. Is that right?
That's absolutely right, right? I mean, at the end of the day, a fire apparatus is a life safety vehicle. So our customers demand that they have the confidence that it always has the ability to perform. So the backbone of the product of the Volterra is really the transmission, the electromechanical infinitely variable transmission. That's a mouthful. Was the last time we ever let engineers name something.
Yeah.
So we call it EMIVT, right? Got to shorten that up. But the EMIVT basically replaces the Allison transmission we all know in our fire apparatus. And what that does allows it to draw power and perform from two different ways, via electric or via the internal combustion engine. The Volterra operates 90% of its life, 95% of its life on the batteries, fully electric, whether it be driving, responding to calls, pumping, what have you. But again, it goes back to to the life safety, always having the ability to perform. So there is the internal combustion engine that provides that power in the event the batteries reach a state of charge, insufficient to do whatever the operation is. Again, pumping or driving, you have that backup power that you always can perform and do your job.
Yeah, so with it having a backup engine, I know I hear this question a lot. I know you've demoed this probably more than anyone in the world, frankly, on electric fire apparatus. What did you say when someone says, "Oh, so it has a backup engine, that means it's a hybrid?" How do you respond to that?
I say it's a dual power, right? So it operates fully electric, and then when the batteries reach a state of charge, it seamlessly transitions to the internal combustion engine and then runs off that internal combustion engine, just like every other apparatus in their fleet, as long as they have fuel in the fuel tank. You get it back to their station to a charging, they recharge the batteries, it then transitions back to the batteries and runs fully on the electrically again until it needs to transition back and forth. But again, the neat part about this is it's high tech. We've taken a very high tech product and seamlessly inserted it into a fire truck that our customers know and love. Operationally, it's the same. Functions the same. The switches, the cab layouts, the body layouts, the pump layouts. That's all what our customers are used to. We just taken this high tech product and just seamlessly insert it in there and then give them the flexibility, right? They can operate electrically. If they need to, they can operate off the internal combustion engine.
And I think if you have to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not like an engine aficionado, so to say. Or to be a hybrid, it would have to charge off of the
Correct.
combustion engine.
That is correct. Yep.
And in that point, is it really I mean, that way it's applying emissions to now charge itself, which
Correct.
would defeat the point of having an electric solution. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, look at me. You can
You're
tell me
catching on. You've been
I've been
paying
listening
attention.
I listened to your sales meeting class. I guess that maybe that's what it is. So talk a little bit about, regenerative braking. I know that's a big part of this technology. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, how it works?
Yeah, well, when we went back and designed that EMI-VT, we had the ability to, incorporate regenerative braking. So just like your Allison transmission has a retarder in it, as it provides that auxiliary braking, which is required by an FPA for all fire trucks, it generates heat. Well, the EMI-VT generates electricity. So we're able to put that back electricity as your, normal braking through, street light to street light, down hills, whatever, putting that energy back into the batteries and prolonging and extending the duration of the battery and operations.
What is there any, like, performance difference then for someone, like, when they're used to driving a traditional truck with traditional braking and then the regenerative braking of the Volterra?
Yeah, it just, if you've ever driven an electric vehicle, you get that feel for that when you let off the brakes, you automatically or gas, you automatically get that automatic reduction and feel that braking occurring. And same thing here, it's smoother. You're using less service brakes, so you're able to prolong your service brake life and to have a much smoother operating vehicle.
Alright, so let's talk a little bit about charging. So obviously, again, there is a bit of a change there. We talk about wanting to make sure it's as least of a change functionally for a firefighter. But certainly, they can't go fill up with diesel to charge their battery. So walk me through how they're doing that, how they're doing it in the station, how long does it take, some details around that.
Yeah, so the Volterra comes standard with an 11 kW internal, a level 2 charger built into it. You can plug in with a 40 amp welding outlet, if you will. The batteries are 246 kilowatts, so your level of charger determines how fast it's going to charge. So you like to use the example of filling your water tank. You're going to fill your water tank slowly using a garden hose, or you're going to fill it really quick using a 5-inch supply line from a hydrant. So the same way when you're looking at your charging infrastructure. So level 2 chargers, small trickle chargers, the garden hose. Level 3 DC fast chargers, like filling your water tank with a 5-inch. So it really varies. We work with our customers to understand their call volume, their duration of calls, how far they're going for each miles they're running to each call, how long they're on scene, to determine what type of charger is going to best support their needs. The batteries in the Volterra are designed to run 15 to 20 calls a day. So it's all depending upon duration and time. And then we want to work for them to make sure that when they have that charging infrastructure installed in their station, it's always going to ensure that the Volterra is ready to perform at its top measure.
Alright, so that's a great analogy about the different garden hose versus a 5-inch supply line. Is there a standard then on what that outlet looks like on the side of the truck?
Yeah, absolutely. So the level 2 chargers use what's called a J1772 charger, readily available. You can get an adapter online. They're very, very readily adapter, just like your on electric cars. The high voltage charger, the level 3 DC fast chargers, use the standard CCS1, which is the same charger you'll find at the commercially available charge points all around with the grocery stores, parking lots, what have you. So we're all using the same standard, which is great because when you're out there operating in the urban environment, at the grocery store, at a pub ed, the guys can plug in the truck to a commercially available charger and keep the batteries topped off. So they're always available to respond.
That makes a lot of sense. I know you've spent a lot of time demoing this and getting out there. I know Chris Breaker and Corey Whitman have also spent a lot of time on the road with it, really all around North America. It would have to be somewhat universal if they're charging on the road. So, I mean, are they just pulling up to different charge points to do that on the
Absolutely.
road?
Yeah. Yep. So out there, that's the neat thing about the standard we adapted. The CCS1 is the standard for all the readily available commercial chargers.
Right.
And we've tested the Volterra on all of them so that it seamlessly plugs in, handshakes, and you're able to fill the tank, if you will.
Yeah, and I would imagine, obviously, like, in a more I'm using the example of how they're using it on a road show. When it's in a fixed community, I would imagine you go to the same charging stations more frequently, and you're using, obviously, in-station solutions and things of that
When we
nature.
look at electric fire trucks and look at electric vehicles as a whole in the transportation heavy truck market, fire trucks are uniquely designed to be electrified because they're always going to and from the same location. So they're getting dispatched from the station, leaving the station, going to a call, maybe going to training, coming back to the station where you have your fixed charging point. So you're always able to have that charging point centrally located, plug right in, recharge the batteries to their full capacity, and have that vehicle always ready to go.
Alright, so on the note of batteries, I know one of the most common questions you're probably asked on the road, certainly we hear it here, is around how long do those batteries last? How far can you run on EV? And I know you were on this project really since the beginning of it from a new product development standpoint. I wanna say at one point they were even doing it by how many laps you could do of Lake Winnebago,
Right? Yep.
which is not a very great way to translate this. So walk me through how long the battery life lasts on a Volterra.
So when we designed the product and we looked at saying, oh, how big do these batteries need to be? We looked at the conventional pumpers and looked at how much power is needed to move a 50,000 pound vehicle. Then we converted that to kilowatts, and there's a lot of math happened there, way above my head. But then we basically decided, a 246 kilowatt battery pack is going to give the common urban department the power to run 15 to 20 calls a day. And so that's really what we did it for. When you look at, everybody has this range anxiety and they want to know, well, how far can I travel from point A to point B? That's a simple factor of weight of vehicle, how much you're running, your air conditioning on, your warning lights on, and really that can those variables average out to around 2.43 kilowatts per mile is needed to move a 50,000 pound fire truck. But again, when we look at the Volterra, we don't worry about that, because when the batteries reach a state of charge, that lower state of charge insufficient to do either pumping or driving, it'll seamlessly transition to the internal combustion engine, and then it'll run like every other apparatus in their fleet until they run out of fuel in the fuel tank.
And so if a customer wants to get an idea of what that would be in their community and run that kind of a calculation, are there resources available for that?
Absolutely. We utilize in the fielded units we have today, we develop a calculator that we can work with our customers to understand their call volume, their uniqueness of their operational terrain, and give them a range and understanding of how much power they'll need per call, and then right size their infrastructure, as well as then help them determine how much I'll be able to pump based upon how they operate, whether it's from draft normally or from a hydrant, and give them a duration time. So that's one of the neat things about the Volterra and how we designed it, so that when the battery reaches a state of charge insufficient, if they're running call after call, that it seamlessly transitions to the internal combustion engine without any operator input, so that the operators, the firefighters, the chief doesn't need to worry about the vehicle not running. Like, do I have enough charge to do whatever I'm doing? We got great use cases. City of Portland pumping multiple alarm fires, 4 alarm fires electrically. Guys off doing other parts of their job that they need to do, come back and the vehicle has transitioned from the battery automatically to the internal combustion engine, and firefighters on hand lines inside the fire didn't even notice any pressure change. Right? It's just a great technology that's really designed to ensure firefighter comfort and safety.
So you're telling me the people operating the hand line didn't notice that it changed?
Absolutely. Less than a 5 PSI pressure difference when it switches from electric to the internal combustion engine.
That's just incredible that it can easily transition back and forth between that. Does that mean that the battery was all the way down to 0 when that happened? Or is there a certain percentage that it gets down to before it
Yeah.
transitions?
So we have it set right now that when it reaches around a 20% level, the battery, state of charge in the battery, it will transition to the internal combustion engine, leaving reserve power so that the vehicle can drive back through the city streets, back to the station on electric, so they're not putting exhaust emissions into the station and any cancer-causing agents into the station when they're operating. So that's how it's set up now. And then when it's driving, it'll go to the state of charge of 0, and then before it transitions to the internal combustion engine when they're operating.
So, you mentioned how they couldn't tell the difference on the hose line. What about driving? What's the difference when you're driving in the combustion engine mode versus in the Volterra
Yep.
mode?
One of the cool things is when you get somebody who's never driven it, and you have them drive, and then have them do that transition, is the only way they know that they've switched from battery to the internal combustion engine is the RPM gauge will all of a sudden move up, kick on, and they'll hear the extra noise of the engine. Doesn't miss a beat driving, doesn't drop any speed, just
Yeah,
continues
I
going.
mean, is there any, like, benefits on the EV mode in terms of acceleration? Like, do you get a quicker pickup or any of that?
So when it's operating in electric mode, you do see some improvement in that acceleration because you don't have the lag that we experience on diesel engines with the mesh up of the gearing and the transmission. Additionally, you don't have the noise in electric mode that you have in the diesel mode, because you don't have that engine noise. So you have less noise, less heat going into the cab, just a much better, more comfortable environment operating electrically in a fire truck than you have otherwise.
When a customer and you have the opportunity to go demo this, and they go and they're gonna get in that thing for the first time, and you're sitting there in the officer's seat, what's the most common thing someone says about that? About their experience?
It's not what we expected.
Mm.
That is always number one. There's like, wow, I did not expect that.
Well, I think part of it though, like when you talk about the experience of someone driving it for the first time, I don't know if their expectation, are they setting that expectation based on driving a standard combustion engine or a perception of what an electric vehicle should be, and that they think I'm gonna be jumping in, it's gonna feel like a golf cart. You know what I mean? Like, I don't it's just amazing to me what and it almost feels like the couple times that I've been around it, like we were on the road rally and folks are jumping in it, and it seems like at first people almost baby it a little bit, and then they wanna see and they drive it like a fire truck after that. I'm not saying they're being reckless by any means, but then all of a sudden they become more comfortable and they wanna start kinda pushing the pace and see, "Okay, if I was responding, how would I do this? How would this work? How does it handle?" But yeah, can you walk me through what that might be like for a customer?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because you do have both camps, right? You have that one camp that maybe has experience with electric vehicle, electric car, and they're expecting, just like ludicrous speed. And then you have those ones that are just really apprehensive going, how is a battery going to be able to push a 50,000-pound piece of fire equipment? And it's really neat to see both camps come together and go, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting the quiet operation. I wasn't expecting the acceleration or the performance. I wasn't expecting to hear the reduction in just the way everything gels together and seamlessly comes together in the apparatus where I don't have to worry about what I need to do. I can focus on my job, not what is running.
Sure. And it's gotta be functionally for a customer different on how they train as well, right? I mean, they have to train differently for the
That's really the cool part about this and the way we've designed the Volterra is you don't. We had customers who put these trucks in service initially and they were like making sure everybody knew it was electric, but then they realized the cab's the same layout, the pump's the same switching, the body, the pump house, everything's the same. So really, I don't need to tell my engineers or do anything specific to help them understand that this is an electric apparatus. Now, there's certain little things that, okay, yeah, when you come back to the station, you need to plug in the charger. Those little things, but when you look at operationally, we've been able to design the Volterra so it does not affect their operations. We're able to either choose an internal combustion engine or an electric version of the same apparatus that they currently operate, which has made it really a real easy product to implement into their systems.
sure, that makes sense on the operations side of it. What about service? Like, what about, the EBT tax or however they're servicing their current apparatus? What changes there?
Yeah, so we're already starting to see some improvement and decrease in cost and operating maintenance costs because of service of brakes, engine oil changes, def changes, stuff like that. And then how we're servicing and supporting these is we have training classes set up where we can train both our customers, service technicians to their level of comfort on how much investment they want to put into training and maintenance of the high voltage electric system. But the key part is that outside of a 19-inch battery box mounted behind the cab, the rest of the vehicle is the same components that their mechanics are already trained. Their EVTs are already trained to operate on those pumps. The EVTs are already trained to operate on those axles. So we really didn't reinvent the wheel and go electrify the entire apparatus from front bumper to tailboard. We really kept it small because there's already proven components in the fire apparatus market readily available that do allow them to keep this upkeep and keep the vehicles in service.
So we talked about the response that somebody has the first time that they drive it and they experience that. What about a technician? When a technician comes out to a demo and says, "All right, I want to take a look at this thing." Like, what are their responses like?
They are expecting high voltage wires everywhere. They're expecting like, "Oh my gosh, how is this going to change my job?" And so the minute you tilt the cab and you actually let them see what's underneath and they see the standard diesel combustion, the internal combustion engine that they're used to. They see the standard axles. They see that there's less than 42 inches of high voltage cable out sitting right there for them to worry about. It's not run from front bumper to tailboard. They see the same pump that they have on the rest of their fleet. They start to sit back and go, "Oh, okay. All right, this can work." And there's always questions, right? Anytime there's a new product, there's always questions. And that's where we start to really get in to answer those questions and make them feel comfortable with how that technology's been implemented.
Oh, wow. So I know there's a handful of these in service really across the country, certainly a lot in your territory in the West. But can you tell me any of those customer stories of things you've heard from them with their trucks in service?
Yeah, it's really neat. Like you said, we got a number of these out across the West. The customers feedback has been very instrumental in ensuring that we're delivering the product our customers expect. They've been overwhelmed with just the operations. The really neat thing about some of these vehicles is just what their feedback is. In Gilbert, they've been able to eliminate the cancer-causing emissions of the apparatus when they're pulling into the station or leaving the station when they're operating in electric mode. And out in Portland, they're running an average of 15 calls a day, 2 to 3 fires a day, all operating electrically. It's just great to see that this product is being utilized the way it is.
On that side, do you think there's any stories you could tell about that, the cultural adoption? Like, that's an interesting one. I think that's a challenge in the fire industry is that what do they say? The two things firefighters hate is the way things are and change. And I think that's human nature in general, not just firefighters. But what's that like when all of a sudden they're going to use these? We're having an EV solution.
One, like you said, the one thing firefighters hate is change, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's always that apprehension because they don't know, we don't know what we don't know, right? So, once they get a chance to experience it, the adoption is very rapid and quick. Oh, that's not what I expected. Oh, I didn't know about that. It's just been really exciting to kind of see some of the apprehension quickly fade away and quickly, go to that adoption.
All right, Mark. So all that time on the road, I'm sure you hear a lot of myths that you have to dispel as well, or common questions that you probably answer over and over again. Let's do some myth busters here. What are some common ones that you wish you could educate people on that you hear over and over and over again that you want to set the story straight?
Yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about the first one, hybrid. The Volterra is not a hybrid. It is either a fully electric vehicle or fully internal combustion engine diesel vehicle, and that's key, and it's really the backbone of how we design the Volterra. The other one is, the infrastructure. The infrastructure is determined by our customers, right? A large municipality may need a large level 3 charger due to their call volume, where a smaller city or volunteer department can get by with maybe the internal 11 kW level 1 charger or a smaller charger, right? So one size doesn't fit all. So understanding that charging infrastructure is one of those things that is a myth out there that we help educate through our dealer network. Our dealers and sales reps are really educated on how to understand and ask the questions of how a department is going to utilize the vehicle so they can help right size that infrastructure for them.
All right. There's obviously some unique elements around electrification for our customer already. Like I think of when you go to Metro Chiefs conferences or topics that come up at IFC events and things of that around what are they doing for EV fires? And what are they going to do when they're responding to a roadside Tesla or whatever the case is? And then now we're introducing an EV. What kind of safety protocols are out that around our batteries and things like that nature to maybe address some of those questions or concerns?
Yeah, and that's again when we look at just how we wanted to design the Volterra, all those questions were brought to the table with the engineering team to decide how do we want to attack these. So first off, we mounted the batteries behind the cab above the frame rails. There are no high voltage components mounted below the frame rails. There's no batteries underneath the chassis, so it's protected from road debris, from frontal or side impact. Additionally, we partnered with a US-based battery supplier that has been in this industry for over a decade building commercial grade batteries. They have both a software and a physical patented cell propagation system built into these batteries to protect the battery in the event of a thermal runaway. So a lot of thought has gone into that to ensure the safety for both the operators as well as the vehicle when you're looking at a battery truck.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time. If someone has more questions about the Volterra solution, what do they do? Where should they go?
Yeah, we have some great resources online. We have a whole page dedicated to our Volterra platform of vehicles. Really great blogs out there as well. We've answered a lot of the questions from our customers regarding design, infrastructure, and charge support, so we can give you at least some starting points to answer some of your questions.
That's perfect. And
So
as always, if you don't get your resources there or another starting point, as always, your local Pierce dealer. So, Mark, thank you so much. Appreciate you jumping on here. Certainly appreciate all you're doing on the road to talk about our Volterra product, to educate customers and things like that. But it certainly means a lot that you're willing to jump on here and share that story with everybody across our platform.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Dan.